Hi and welcome to this video where I'm going to be talking to you about 10 tips to overcoming stage fright when it comes to performing, singing on stage. First of all, I want to just share with you a little story. When I was 23, I had a dream to be a singer. The problem was I was absolutely crippled with fear. So I remember going to a friend's house and she asked me to sing in front of 17 Slovenians. And I remember it was just one song, it was a cappella. Oh my gosh, my mouth was dry, my knees were trembling. I have never felt so scared in my entire life. Fast forward, and I have been a professional piano vocalist and cabaret singer for over 18 years traveling around the world. So it really is possible to be able to overcome your stage fright. So tip number one, I want you to reframe what is going on in here. So when I first start a performance, I am always terrified. And as I said before, it's like the knees are shaking, the mouth is dry, you're worried about what's going to happen because you have no idea on stage what the audience is going to be like. Are you going to trip up? Are you going to remember the words? All these like really scary things. And so what happens is we go into fight and flight mode. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to switch that feeling from fear to excitement because it's exactly the same feeling and it will really help you. Tip number two, I want you to start small. So when you first of all have this dream to perform, what do we often do? We often think about the big picture. We think about performing at theatres. We think about performing professionally. We think about performing in front of a large audience. But actually, a lot of the singers that are at that stage have been gigging for years and years and years. And they have learnt the baby steps that's needed to gain that experience to go on the bigger stages. So I want you to take the pressure off. I want you to start by playing at small open mics, even karaoke bar, singing in front of a few friends, maybe at a birthday party, and then you're going to start to build from there. So maybe you become a backing singer in a band, or you get a little gig in a cafe. And the more that you perform in those baby steps, the more confidence you're going to grow. But it's going to take the pressure off. So you're going to enjoy it because there's nothing worse than being thrown in the deep end to a really big audience. Tip number three, choose your opening song wisely. So when you first go on stage, you are going to be nervous. You're not going to be warmed up. And you're going to have a lot of pressure because in that 3 minutes, you're going to have to win the audience over. And at the same time as being on stage, you're looking around going, what does this audience need? The last thing that you need on top of that is a song that has got a large range or a song that you don't know very well. There's got to be a song that's in a really comfortable range. I always call it my warm-up song. It tends to be maybe an octave in length with the melody. It shouldn't be any higher than a G for women or any lower than a G for women. So kind of around that area, depending on your vocal range. And I want you to also know the words inside out, back to front. This has got to be a song that's like a comfortable pair of slippers, a song that subconsciously you can just slip into so that you're not overthinking. And I promise you that when you have a comfortable song, you are going to be so much more confident as you walk onto the stage because you're going to know it really, really well. I prefer a song that's upbeat because that way you're stepping into your power. So a song that kind of really puts a stake in the ground, go, this is who I am. It makes the audience know, oh, hang on a minute, there's someone on stage, and it really commands your presence. Tip number four. So when we get nervous, we develop these feelings of fear, fight and flight mode. And then what happens is we end up talking fast, we end up walking fast, we end up probably jumping around on stage like a lunatic. I can absolutely vouch for that. So what I want you to do is calm your nervous system down. Before you go on stage, I want you to do the 4-4 box breathing. So that goes breathing in for 4, hold for 4, breathing out for 4, and hold for 4. You can do it slower than that. But what that does is that grounds you so that when you go on stage, you are not necessarily reacting to that fear. Another really good tip as well when it comes to moving on stage is to have a mic stand, because if you are holding a mic stand, you cannot run around like a lunatic. And then another tip as well with regards to the movement is you might decide that you want to stand on one section of the stage for one verse, and then you move over to the stage for another verse, and then you move into the middle for the chorus, rather than jumping around, because when you're jumping around like a lunatic, you are being reactive. The audience can sense your nervousness, and we just need to calm it down and slow it down. Also, when we're nervous, we oversing. So by breathing that 4/4, you're going to ground yourself, which means that you're not going to oversing and you're not going to hurt your vocal folds. Tip number 5. So I mentioned previously in the video that when you are just starting out, you need to have baby steps. You need to start with smaller gigs. Now, when I first started, I used to record every single performance that I had. When you first start out as a singer, you don't know what the banter's going to be. You don't know what songs are going to work well with an audience. And you're almost throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. So when you're recording yourself, you can watch back and you can go, oh yeah, look at the audience. They're laughing at that one line that I did. Then that goes into your repertoire of banter. Or you might look at the audience and go, wow, they really clapped hard on that one song. So you understand more about the set that you are creating. Also as well, it's really good to look at yourself, because often you may think, oh my gosh, that was an awful performance, but then you look back and you go, actually, I did pretty well. I used to have so much shame. Oh my gosh, when I came off stage, I was like, oh my gosh, that was so bad. That was so bad. And I used to make myself sit down and write 3 things that I learnt from that performance. So maybe it was that one song did really well. Maybe is that one particular line absolutely flopped. Maybe it was I shouldn't have worn those shoes, or maybe those shoes were amazing. So you want to at least write 3 things that you have learnt whilst being on that stage. Tip number 6. Now, this is a really good one that I learnt from a magician when I first started. And that is, when I was on stage, I used to focus on the people with the grumpy faces, and that is no good for anybody. And the magician said to me, what about, Sam, if you go on stage and you just focus on that one person who is smiling at you? And I did that. Oh my gosh, it made such a difference. So when you are on stage, I want you to just look out in the audience and just find one person to focus on and make sure that one person is smiling at you. And then what happens is you start to draw the room in. And next thing you know, you're looking up and there's a few more people smiling at you. And then by the end of the set, you are looking up and everybody is smiling at you. So just focus on looking at that one person who is smiling at you. Okay, tip number 7. Expect that not every show is going to be perfect, and you just need to let go of the validation. Now, I have done so many performances before that have gone really badly, but I've also done some performances that have gone really well. And here's the thing. Most of the time, I am the same on stage. It is actually the audience that has made the difference, or it has been what has been going on in here. So I want you to just take every single performance as if it's a unique experience. So I like to draw the analogy of an ocean. I love the ocean. I swim in the sea, I sail, but the ocean can be quite dangerous. And so when you go on stage, I want you to respect the stage. I want you to understand that things are going to go wrong. You know, you may have a microphone go wrong. You may have a heel that breaks. Maybe the backing track doesn't work. Maybe there's a fight in the audience. Maybe the audience haven't slept in 2 days. You have no idea what is going to happen. So I want you to completely let go of expectations and let go of the need for perfectionism. Instead, I want you to come forward, be flexible, and most importantly, to have fun. And try, if possible, to not seek validation from outside. Because ultimately, if you do that, which I have done for many years, is that if it's a good performance, you'll feel amazing. And if it's a crap performance, you will feel awful. Now I go on stage and I go, do you know what? I have done the best that I can do. And that's all that you can do. Tip number 8. So when it comes to carving out your set list, I want you to think about the overall experience that the audience is going to get. Now, how has carving out a set list got to do with confidence and overcoming stage fright? Well, if you have got a solid set list that you know works really well for your audience, even if you are having a bad day, which we all get, you know that that is a solid performance that will work. Now, it may not be the best gig in the world, but it won't be the worst gig in the world. And that starts from structuring the set. You want to make sure you've got upbeat songs, mid-beat songs, ballads. You want to make sure there's banter in between the songs. You've got high range, low range, emotional songs, light songs. So I want you to really plan the set And then I want you to test it. Test it. Sometimes I will think 3 upbeat songs in a row will work really well. And then actually I'll test it again. I'll do 2 upbeat songs and 1 ballad, and that might work better. So think about your set list, trial it for 1 gig. After the gig, go away and think about what worked, what didn't work, and then you can start to carve out your set list. And the more that you gig, again, we're going back to those baby steps, the more you will learn what the audience wants, you'll learn what you're good at, and you'll be able to do a solid performance, and your confidence will just grow. Tip number 9, engaging with your audience from the start. One of the things that I always start with when I go on stage is I'm singing the song, and then halfway through the song, I'll get the microphone and I will start to talk to the audience in the instrumental. The reason for that is I'm engaging straight away with the audience. Now, one thing I've realized is that it's actually not about me. The performance is about the audience. And actually, you could be the best singer in the world, you could be the best performer in the world, but if you are not engaging with that audience, you are going to flop. However, it works the other way too. If you lose your voice, if you forget the words, if you make a boo-boo up on and you fall over, if you have got a really good relationship with your audience, they will forgive absolutely anything. So a few tips on how to build a rapport with the audience. It could be picking someone up at the front and going, "Hi, where are you from?" Or it could be, "You, Sarah, at the back, I love your shirt." Or it could be, "Who here likes Adele?" Whatever it is, you're just trying to gauge an audience. I'm really cheeky on stage, and I find that works really well for me. But you might tell stories. You may engage with someone at the front. You may, it doesn't really matter, but as long as you're not closing your eyes and just completely ignoring the audience, because 1, they'll find it really boring, but 2, you want to build a rapport with them. So by the end of your show, you are their best friend. And finally, tip number 10. I want you to absolutely embrace failure. One of the things that I love about being a singer is not knowing what the gig is going to feel like. What's it going to be like? Is there going to be an amazing audience? Is it going to be a quiet audience? Am I going to fall over? Is the audience going to love me? Is the audience going to hate me? It is scary. But that's what also makes it so thrilling. So when you are at the start of your journey and you don't have the confidence, I just want you to be kind to yourself and just acknowledge that you are going to fail. And you're going to fail over and over and over and over and over again until one day you're going to go on that stage and you're going to look up and you're going to be like, wow, I finally made it. I have finally created a set that woos an audience, that engages with an audience. I know what I'm doing. But there is no fast track to learning how to be a singer. You just have to go through it, my friend. So listen, I hope that has helped. If you've enjoyed this, please press the subscribe button and I will see you in next week's video. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.